Hey guys, Pedro here to do an album review. Today I'm here to talk to you guys about the brand new record from Gorgon, Elegy, out January 18 on Dusktone. This album has 8 tracks, one of them, track number 8, Elegy, is an instrumental track, and it's about 43 minutes in length. This album, it's really about black metal guitar riffs, extreme metal drumming, symphonic elements, and incredible vocals. To me, these are the key components of this record. When you really boil it down to, when you really strip down the record is all about those components, how they come together, and how they make the songs breathe life. This is what it boils down to. This is the spinal cord of this album from Gorgon. Overall, the album is a concept album, not in the way that you're thinking, not where a story starts with the first track finishing with the last track. That is not the way they went with this record. But it's a concept album from the overall picture of the record. The album is really a tribute to women, so what they did was, with each song, they picked a woman either from history, mythology, religion, and they told their story and how we connect our world with that story. So each single song works on its own. It's an individual track with an individual story, but then when you look at them in the bigger picture, they're all interconnected because they all have a common denominator. Now, this album has a really cool Middle Eastern vibe to it, and to me, that Middle Eastern vibe was achieved by combining 2 different components. One, the symphonic element. The melodies from the symphonic element had a lot of Middle Eastern sound to it, a lot of Middle Eastern vibes to it. And the other component was that they used a Tunisian singer named Safa, and she came in with an incredible voice. She is on every single track with a humming, with singing, with adding dialogue to it, where she's a narrator. So she really added another aspect, another layer to the songs, and in conjunction with the symphonic elements, those 2 things put together, you really have a real strong Middle Eastern vibe on this record. That Middle Eastern vibe really also helps with the storytelling because it creates an atmosphere. It really creates a blanket that really encompasses the whole record and allows the stories to sound alive, if you will. It really sets the tone, it sets a scenario for you, so it was really smart what they did from that perspective. I don't think this would work if the album wasn't a concept album where you're trying to tell these individual stories, all of them with a common denominator. If it wasn't for that, I think it wouldn't work. It would become repetitive and boring, but the fact that there is an underlying story to be told, and how they incorporated that female voice and stories that are about female characters really work well on every single track at every single level. And then when you add the symphonic element to her voice, this whole Middle Eastern vibe really allows the songs to come to life. It almost feels like you're hearing a story at bad times, like you're hearing bad time folklore stories, if you will. It really has that storytelling aspect to it, and that Middle Eastern vibe gives and adds to that storytelling aspect. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the combination of these 2 to really create a very dark embrace and a very atmospheric embrace to the record. From a vocal perspective, I really have to mention that I really enjoy what they did. Not only you have the harsh vocalists coming in every single song with very harsh vocals that really add aggression and darkness to the lyrics and to the story that he's telling, but you have Safa as a female singer adding a different nuance, a different side of things, a more calm and beautiful side of things to the songs, adding a different layer, a different sound, a different fragrance to the songs. On top of that, they added a few things here and there. They added a few choirs, they added a few layering of vocal tracks. They added enough to create a different dynamic from song to song, and really, I really feel like the purpose in that was really telling the story to its full potential, really grabbing the lyrics and bringing them to life. So by using these different techniques, by using these different styles, they were really able to do that. They were really able to bring the lyrics to life almost as a play, as a musical play, if you will, and you're able to embrace yourself into these stories and really lose yourself in them as well. I highly recommend for this specific record for you to sit down and listen to it, specifically during the first time that you're going through. Sit down, read the lyrics as you're listening to the record. I think your enjoyment of the record is going to be that much greater by having the lyrics with you, following the lyrics along as you're listening to the tracks. Because as much as this album is about the cinematic aspect that the music has, and this album has a larger than life cinematic aspect to it, is also about the lyrics and the stories that they're telling you. Those two go hand in hand, and I think if you miss one of them, you perhaps will be missing a piece, a chunk of how good this record really is. As far as songs are concerned, I'm going to start with Nemesis. The symphonic melody in this song is absolutely, it's magnificent. It's larger than life. It creates a really big atmospheric element to the song, and it really adds something to it. It really adds a cinematic vibe to it. The drums and the vocals on this track are so heavy. It just adds a feeling like the skies are crumbling and falling on top of you. It just adds to that cinematic vibe as well. The two are really well placed together. They really work well together to really create a song that has this magnificent ambiance to it. This is a track, like every track, they use the female humming on it. They use Safa's voice with this beautiful female humming, almost like a siren, if you will. It adds such a great dynamic to the track. It adds a beautiful melody, and it adds to that symphonic element in terms of bringing that Middle Eastern vibe alive on this track. This song, this specific song, Nemesis, has one of my favorite synthesizer melodies of the whole album. It just makes you lose yourself into the song. It's so beautiful, so mesmerizing, and when you add that with the humming, it just really creates a mesmerizing feel to the whole song. Another one of my favorite tracks on this album is Into the Abyss. Another track that has a very strong atmospheric element to it. Another song that has Safa and vocals. This time they used her not only for the humming, but they use her as a narrator to the story. There's a piece of the story, a piece in the middle of the song where she comes in, spoken word, and she acts as a narrator telling the story. It makes the song absolutely incredible. It adds a completely different dynamic, something that they hadn't used up until this point, and then it just gives the song this charismatic vibe to it. I absolutely love it. It really builds up towards something, and what it builds up to is towards a song that becomes very heavy as well. And it almost feels like a crescendo leading up to that point through her narration part of the song. I really liked it. This is one of the most haunting tracks on the album, and I think one of the components that makes this song extremely haunting is the fact that you have the narrator, because it really brings the lyrics to life. You really almost feel like somebody's telling you the story to you specifically, and that is where you as the listener connect with the track. And then when you put all of these components together, you have a song that has this atmospheric, dark, ominous vibe to it. Beautiful, but still very dark and ominous. I really enjoyed Into the Abyss. Last but not least is Ishassara. I really like this song as well. Blistering, heavy start of the song with a heavy riff. It's one of those tracks where perhaps with so many other components going on, you forget how good, how heavy, how dark the guitar riff is in this song. I love it. It also, speaking of guitars, it has an incredible solo. The solo on this track is not perhaps what I was expecting. I was expecting something slower, more somber. The solo is very dynamic. There's a lot of melody in it. It's beautiful, but in that beauty of that solo, there is still that darking, haunting vibe that this album has from song 1 to song 8. A word to describe this song would be heavy. This is one of the heavier songs on the album as far as I'm concerned. One of the ones that you really feel that extreme metal drumming coming to life, even though it is on every single track. On this one, it's more predominant. It's more in the forefront. It's more in your face. Same thing with the guitar riffs. In this song, they're more predominant, more in your face. This to me is one of the heavier tracks on the album, but one that has an incredible, beautiful melodic solo. One of the solos, it's one of those solos that you just can't forget. It just has so many little intricacies to it that just adds life to the song, and it adds melody to a song that perhaps was lacking a little bit of it. It's there on the symphonic side, but it was lacking otherwise, and that solo kind of gave it a little bit of an extra push. It just, you know, it kind of gave it that extra kick that it needed as far as melody is concerned, because this is a very heavy song. It really needed that something else, that extra melody. This is it. This is Elegy from Gorgon, out January 18 on Dusktone. I want to hear from you guys. I want to hear your thoughts, what you think of the band, what you think of the album. Let me know in the comment section below. I'll be checking those out and getting back to you. Take care, guys.